Hello students, hope you are doing fine at home. Today again we are here to learn something new. So the name of the next chapter is Natural Environment, Lithosphere, the Realm of Land. So if you remember, in the previous chapter we studied about atmosphere, we studied about lithosphere, we studied about hydrosphere and biosphere, the four different spheres. So now we are here to learn more about the second layer, that is lithosphere, the realm of land. Okay. The earth came into existence about 4,500 million years ago. Initially, it was a hot and gaseous ball which revolved around the sun. Gradually, it cooled down and got solidified. However, only the upper part of the earth, known as the crust, is solid. The interior of the earth is still a molten state. Remember, a molten state means it is still in a form of a semi-liquid thing. It contains lava and all. Okay. So we will try and understand how the surface of the earth is all about and how it works. Okay. So before we do, the crust, the word crust, it's the upper part, uppermost thin layer, thin solid layer of rock, okay, is called the crust of the earth. The earth is basically a watery planet. We have already seen that. It's also called the blue planet because of lots of water. So let's see how much water is there. With nearly 71% of its surface covered with water, that's oceans, and the remaining 21% is land. So there is 71% water covering the earth, lot of water. Hence earth is also called as the blue planet. There are 7 huge land masses called the continents and 4 vast oceans. So this is something on the earth. There are 7 huge land masses called continents, 7 different continents and 4 vast oceans, big oceans, huge. You can consult an atlas and find out the names of the continent and oceans and their relative sizes. You will also notice that the distribution of land and water is highly uneven. Land masses or continents are largely concentrated in the northern hemisphere, known as the land hemisphere, while the southern hemisphere has a predominance of water, for which it is also known as the water hemisphere. Okay. Now, when you hear the word hemisphere, means half sphere, okay, is covered with water, half is covered with maximum land. The distribution of land and water has a major impact on the global climatic pattern. Oceans are the major source of moisture and its precipitation as rainfall and snowfall. The land heats up and cools down relatively rapidly, while oceans reserve heat for a longer time. It also causes a system of breezes, land breeze and sea breeze, that blow between land and sea. The boundaries of continent and oceans are determined by coastlines. One can distinguish the face of Earth from the photographs taken from space. We'll now quickly see how land and water distribution is done and how the earth looks like from the space. So you can see distribution of oceans and continents. As we have read that the northern hemisphere is called the land hemisphere and the south part is called the southern hemisphere or the water hemisphere. Okay, you can see more of the land continents toward the north side. All right, and in this picture, this is how the photograph of earth looks like from the space. Okay. Moving ahead, what does relief mean? All right. Relief means the difference between the highest and the lowest places in an area. So if you are given in an area, if you live in an area, you need, if someone says what's the relief, so the relief is the difference between the highest and the lowest place, okay, in distance. Our earth has variety of landforms such as mountains, hills, valleys, plateaus, plains, etc. Besides, there is a variety of topographic features in each form. The highest point on the earth is the Mount Everest, which is 8,850 meters in Nepal, whereas the lowest, that means the deepest point below the sea, lies in the Mariana Trench, which is 11,034 meters in the Pacific Ocean. So you can see how tall the Mount Everest is and how deep the Mariana Trench is. Okay. Now we'll check what the interior of Earth is all about. The interior of Earth and its composition has for long remained a mystery and matter of great controversy. Today, we know a lot about the structure and composition of Earth's interior through the drills made in the Earth and from indirect evidence such as volcanic and earthquake activities. Volcanic eruptions indicate that the Earth's interior is in a hot and liquid state. So if you've seen in Discovery Channel, the lava, yellowish color or orangish color is something which is in liquid state and is very hot, which comes from the internal side of the interior of the Earth. Okay. Seismology. Okay. Now seismology is the science that studies earthquakes. Okay. You would have seen in movies, you would have seen in newspaper. Okay. For example, in Japan, there was an earthquake for so and so amount. So seismology is a branch which studies especially for the earthquakes. Seismology is, however, the most authentic source of information about the Earth's interior. Seismic waves originate at the focus of the earthquake located inside the Earth. The behavior of these earthquake waves generated during the occurrence of an earthquake provide the most authentic evidence about the composition and structure of the Earth. So whenever there is a seismic activity, a seismic wave is coming through, so it normally comes from the focus of the earthquake, where the earthquake starts. There are three broad types of earthquake waves. Number one, primary waves, which is also called as P waves, secondary waves as in S waves, and surface waves. P and S waves travel faster through rigid material than through soft or plastic material. The velocities of these waves traveling through a specific part of the Earth gives us an indication of the type of rock there. On the basis of these studies, these seismic waves, it has been concluded that the Earth has a solid inner core, a liquid outer core, a soft asthenosphere, and a rigid lithosphere. We'll come to the word asthenosphere later. We need to understand how the Earth is made. So when we study seismology, we have come to know that the Earth has a solid inner core, okay, a liquid outer core, a soft asthenosphere, and a rigid lithosphere. Now, what is an asthenosphere? The upper part of the mantle, which is plastic and partially liquid. Now we'll study what it is, what a mantle is. Okay, the mantle is a dense layer lying below the crust, which is liquid state due to excessive heat inside the Earth. Okay, these are the definitions for it. Now we slowly move to the next topic, which is the layers of the Earth. Now the Earth is made up of different layers. Okay, there are three distinct layers. What are those? Those are the crust, the mantle, and the core. Okay, the crust is a thin, solid and uppermost layer covering the outside of the Earth. Its thickness varies from place to place. It is thickest 70 km beneath the mountain and thinnest 4 to 7 km under the ocean. The average thickness of the crust is about 35 kilometers. Rocks and soil form the uppermost layer of the crust. The crust is divided into two shells, the SIAL, that is the upper shell, and the SIMA. Okay, the CR, that is SIAL, is made up of silica and aluminum. So it is a combination of the two words silica and aluminum. Okay, silica and aluminum, the short form becomes, the silica is SiLiCa and the aluminum spelling is AluMinium. So two words have been taken, so it becomes SiAl. Okay, while SiMa SiMa has abundance of silica and magnesium. So again silica is present in the second cell and magnesium. So again two words taken out from the SiMa. Okay. The contact zone of the crust and the mantle is Mohorovic or Moho discontinuity. The depth of Moho varies from 5 to 7 kilometers beneath the oceans and 45 to 70 kilometers below the folded mountains. Alright. Now we study the mantle. The mantle lies below the crust. Its depth varies between 35 km to 2,900 kilometers. It is composed of dense and rigid rocks. Rigid means very solid. Okay, and has a predominance of minerals like magnesium and iron. The upper part of the mantle is known as asthenosphere, which is plastic and is partially in molten state. Right. The lower part is however solid. Now we study the core. The central part of the earth is known as core, the very central part of the earth. Okay, it consists of dense nickel iron alloy called NiFe. Now NiFe is the scientific way of writing nickel and ferrous, which is iron. Here the temperature is estimated at about 2700 degrees Celsius. So the temperature in the core of the earth is very high. How high? It is 2700 degrees Celsius. The density of the core ranges from 9.5 to 14.5 and sometimes even higher. Okay. Now we'll quickly see how the Earth's interior looks like. So the diagram from the book gives us a clear picture of how the atmosphere is. Okay. How the crust looks like, how the mantle looks like. The mantle is yellowish in color, and then going deep, the outer core and the inner core of molten metal. Right. So this is how the diagram is shown for our better understanding. Moving to the next topic, which is plate tectonics. The word plate tectonics was first used by Tuzo Wilson in 1965 AD. The plate tectonic theory was given by W. J. Morgan in 1667. This theory is based upon the concept of sea flooring spreading. Geologists have discovered that ocean floor is very mobile. So the geologists say that the ocean floor is continuously moving some or the other way. Okay. The hot magma or lava rises up from the Earth's mantle along the mid-ocean ridge and creates a new sea floor. So geologists say that hot lava or magma comes out from the Earth's mantle and it gives form to a new mid-oceanic ridge and a new sea floor is created. The sea floor is spreading and continuing even today. Such spreading of sea floor causes the crust to break into several large pieces known as plates. Each plate is mobile in relation to the other. When plates move away from each other, magma comes out from the below the plate. While plates moving towards each other result in collision, right? Two plates coming together, two big land plates coming together, they will cause a collision, right? Now there are 6 major plates, right? What are those? Those are African plate, okay? The African plate as in the African continent, the big landmass of Africa, then American, then Antarctic, then Australian, then Eurasian. Eurasian means Europe and Asia. So that word is combined to give Eurasia. And then the last is Pacific plate. Okay, we'll quickly see the diagram how the plates look like. Okay, here you can see the major plates around the globe. So you can see where Europe and Asia meet, it's called the Eurasian plate. The African continent, you can see it's the African plate. Then the American, right? Then the Antarctic to the bottom, and the whole of Australia has become the Australian plate. Okay? Besides these major 6 plates, there are 9 other minor plates also. Okay? All the continents and ocean basins are made up of these plates. Okay? So there is land and then there is ocean on it. Remember that. As a result of internal forces, folding, faulting, volcanism and earthquakes occur. All these activities are called tectonics. It is important to note that the folded mountains like the Alps, the Himalayas, the Rockies and the Andes were formed due to collision of plates. The collision pushed one plate over another so that the materials between the plates was squeezed and pushed upwards to form mountains. Okay? Now we move ahead to understand what all things the Mother Earth has for us. Okay? Earth materials, minerals and rocks. Okay? You get a lot of minerals from the earth and you also get the rocks. So we'll study how things are. What are these materials? The earth's surface is composed of rocks. We all know that there are big stones that we can see, big rocks. Okay? Rocks are the aggregate of minerals. In other words, minerals are the rocks forming materials. Minerals are inorganic compounds. Minerals are inorganic compounds and usually have crystalline structure. They may be identified on the basis of several properties like color, luster, texture and hardness. Do you know that diamond is the hardest of all minerals, and common salt we use every day is a mineral called halite. The minerals have great economic value and therefore are very useful to us. There are more than 1600 minerals on earth, of which 200 minerals are economically important. Iron, magnesium, mica, bauxite, lead, zinc, copper, silver, gold, platinum, coal, petroleum are some of the minerals of economic importance. Well, you can collect the names of the other minerals. Rock has been defined as the compact mass of 2 or more minerals. So we say that a rock is normally made up of 2 or more minerals. Rocks may consist only of one mineral, such as rock salt. We generally think that rock is a hard object, but geographically speaking, it may be as hard as granite and as soft as clay. There are many varieties of rock. On the basis of their formation, however, there are 3 types of rocks. Okay? Now, how a rock is made? Okay? Depending upon their formation, they are categorized into 3 different categories. So, number 1 is igneous rock. Igneous rocks are also called primary rocks because they were formed first. The word ignis in Latin means fire, which suggests that volcanic origin might have led to the formation of igneous rocks. They were formed by solidification of the magma. Magma, it's also called the lava. They have crystalline structure, they do not have fossils and are rarely stratified. There are 2 major types of igneous rocks, remember. Now, igneous rock is again further classified into 2 different things. Now, what are those? We'll study them. The major 2 types of igneous rocks are intrusive and extrusive. Intrusive rocks are formed in different shapes from solidification of magma at a greater depth inside the earth. okay, inside the earth has led to the formation of intrusive rocks, okay, iron intrusive. Now, on the other hand, extrusive rocks, on the other hand, are found on the earth's surface. One rock which is found inside the earth is called intrusive. The other word, extrusive, comes from the word external surface, okay, rocks that are found on the surface of the earth, the external surface. Gabbro is an example of intrusive rock, while basalt and rhyolite are common extrusive rocks. Igneous rocks cover a large portion of the earth's crust. These rocks contain valuable minerals like iron ore, silver, gold, zinc, bauxite, etc. Igneous rocks are less susceptible to external forces of nature which cause weathering and erosion. Okay, so igneous rocks make most of the earth's crust and have got valuable minerals which have economic importance to it. So they are very useful for human beings. Okay, the only difference is, like, we have two major types of igneous: intrusive, which are found inside the earth's crust, and extrusive, which are found on the earth's surface. That's it. Okay, now we go to the next one. The next category is sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks are also known as secondary rocks. Okay, the word sediment comes from the word secondary. Okay, rocks, because they are formed from the sediments derived from pre-existing rocks. They are deposited in a layer sequence which consolidates later. These rocks are laid down by the sea, lakes, streams, glacier and wind. They are therefore also known as stratified rocks. Most of the sedimentary rocks are deposited in water bodies. Due to the pressure, these layers of sediments are squeezed and cemented together. Sandstone, shale, gravel and conglomerate are some of the examples of sedimentary rocks. Sedimentary rocks contain fossils. Well, what are fossils? Fossils are the remains of plant and animals. Okay, so sedimentary rocks have fossils in them, the dead remains of animals and plants. Also, coal, petroleum and natural gas are found in this sedimentary rocks. These minerals are of organic origin and are therefore called fossil fuels. Right? Organic origin because there was a plant who died long back, there was an animal due to which, fossil fuel have developed in these rocks. These fossil fuels are important sources of energy. Sedimentary rocks also provide us building material for constructing dams, buildings and roads. These rocks are highly susceptible to external forces. Now the third one, metamorphic rocks. Metamorphic rocks are formed due to the process of metamorphism, which means change in form. Okay, igneous and sedimentary rock undergo transformation in their properties, appearances and character due to intense heat and pressure. Granite, an igneous rock, changes into genesis, while limestone, a sedimentary rock, changes into marble. So when an igneous rock or a sedimentary rock goes through some sort of changes which involve high or intense heat and pressure, they change their appearance. Their color might change, okay, their looks might change, and their form will also change. Okay, so a limestone, when heated, it becomes a marble. Metamorphic rocks are very hard and massive. They do not contain fossil, as fossil of the original sedimentary rock are destroyed during metamorphism. So metamorphism is a process, as we discussed earlier. It's a process wherein lots of heat and pressure is involved for converting that sedimentary or igneous rock to metamorphic rock. So when there's a lot of heat and pressure, every fossil fuel, anything present in it will be destroyed during this process. These rocks are of great value for industries and construction of building as they provide us marble, slag, granite, mica, schist, etc. Now we will quickly understand the rock cycle. The three classes of rock are consistently forming from one another in a continuous circuit which is known as the rock cycle. Okay, so it's a cycle, it's a continuous process that is going on. When igneous and metamorphic rocks are exposed on the earth's surface, they are weathered and eroded. This broken material is carried away by the winds, the rivers, glaciers and waves and get deposited in the layers as sedimentary rocks. When the sedimentary and the igneous rocks are subject to change due to heat and pressure, they get transformed into metamorphic rocks. The cycle of change goes on. We will now quickly look at a diagram which will give us a quick understanding of how this change is a continuous process. Here you can see the ongoing cycle. From the mantle there is lava or magma coming, then it forms, then it's cooled and crystalline form gives us igneous rocks, and then the igneous rock is weathered, uplift erosion, and then it turns into pieces. Again it goes to compact cementation and then it becomes sedimentary rocks, and then sedimentary rocks when put in intense heat and pressure by nature turns into metamorphic rock. Okay, hope you have understood the natural environment lithosphere, which is the realm of the land, through this chapter. Thank you.